thanks to everyone who's joined this webinar as well. So I'm going to share some slides with you. I'm going to use it as a way of introducing, in a very general level, what ELIXIR is, before my colleagues Peter and Claire talk you through some of the platforms and communities in more detail. So hopefully you can see the slides in front of you now. As Mikhail said, I'm the interim director of ELIXIR, and I'm also head of the external relations team. And I've been working for a number of years now, along with colleagues in the ELIXIR Hub, to try and support Romania's path towards membership of ELIXIR. We're getting closer. Obviously, Romania is an observer at the moment. And I think what you will hopefully see from these three presentations from myself, Peter and Claire, is a better idea of what can happen when Romania becomes a member, all of the activities that you can take part in the platforms, in the communities, in the commission services. But I'll also explain some of the services that we offer, which are actually open to anyone all around the world to use as well. So ELIXIR is an intergovernmental organization. Okay. Our membership comes from typically the ministries of science or research from the countries that you see here. So we're a large research infrastructure where we have a critical mass of countries that are members of ELIXIR. We also have the European Molecular Biology Laboratory as well. And we were really delighted last year that Romania chose to become an observer of ELIXIR, and has been able to start to engage in some of those activities that you'll see. And we hope to continue to support Romania on its pathway to becoming a member so that you can take part fully in all of the commission service projects that we have and participate in more of our EU projects as well. But what you see here is a large infrastructure that connects many different infrastructures, many different countries. And within that, there are lots of different scientific institutions in each country as well. And I'll mention a little bit about what ELIXIR nodes look like, because that's another thing that's important for the Romanian community to consider as it works towards membership as well. So how to organize itself, which partners to bring in, and how to connect to those European level activities as well. And we think that over the next year or two, there'll be other countries that become a member as well, alongside Romania, Austria, and Cyprus, that should hopefully move from becoming observers to members as well. So we're a large initiative, and our partners provide bioinformatics services, so resources that the whole world can use. These include things like databases, so places where data can be deposited, or curated knowledge-based resources where everyone can get access to data from them, sometimes sensitive human data, for example. So our partners run these databases, and you may be developing them in Romania as well. I know in the area of human data, you're very active in connecting to activities around the federated EGA, the European Genome Phenome Archive. So there's a lot of expertise from other partners in ELIXIR on this. Training is a very strong component of ELIXIR. These include face-to-face training courses and online materials that are made available in ELIXIR's training registry, which you can access, you can use, and you can contribute to them as well. And so aligning on training activities is going to be quite important for Romania over the coming years. Our partners are very active in developing and supporting the use of software and workflows. It's a big area in ELIXIR's activities over the next 2 or 3 years, including in EU projects that we've just started as well. And there are hundreds of software and workflows and resources that are available. We also do work on standards and making data interoperable, so findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And there's a whole host of resources that you can use to make your own data fair. And also, most partners in ELIXIR have some form of national computing facilities, like an HPC center as well. And that's another thing to think of as you come to develop the node as well, how to connect with the relevant national computing facilities as well. And then, of course, what we're doing through this is bringing together experts. It could be in a particular scientific domain, like biodiversity or human data, or it could be in a particular area of technology as well, or it could be in data management. So the network of ELIXIR itself, which has over 1,000 partners involved, is a real valuable asset for the Romanian bioinformatics community to connect to as well. Now, the structure of ELIXIR is based on each country building up its own national capacity in bioinformatics service provision and data management support. And you'll see here just some examples of the names of ELIXIR nodes that exist. So some of these are pre-existing, ones like the Swiss Institute for Bioinformatics or EBI, the European Bioinformatics Institute, where actually for a number of years they've already been, in the case of SIB and EBI, actually for decades, they've already existed as an infrastructure that connects and coordinates and brings together services and expertise. But you've also see examples of how countries have used membership of ELIXIR as a way of trying to structure their bioinformatics community. So in Germany, for example, DENBI is the national bioinformatics infrastructure, and that was created alongside Germany becoming a member of ELIXIR. So what we see is that the size, scale, the maturity of ELIXIR nodes obviously varies a lot. But the nodes themselves typically bring together multiple institutes in that country around the services that I mentioned, like databases, tools, training, compute, and covering the domain areas that ELIXIR is active in, from rare diseases through to biodiversity. And so not all countries will try to get involved in all ELIXIR activities. Often when a country joins, they might choose to think about where their priorities are, like say in training or data management, and try to begin to connect to activities there, or human data, which seems to be the interest area of Romania. And then over time, you might add new institutes to your node, or you might add new services as well. So this is a typical feature of what we see. And of course, the ELIXIR Hub will sign a collaboration agreement with the representative entity in the node so that we can transfer budget to the Romanian community, in this case, to take part in commission services in future when you hopefully become a member as well. So it's really very, very distributed. And the way to view ELIXIR over the long term is it's the best way of trying to build up your national bioinformatics capacities, because it will allow you to do that in conjunction with other world-leading institutes that are part of the ELIXIR network. And that's really the way to think about over the coming months as you work towards becoming a member and establishing your node. Think about your areas of expertise, what European level activities are happening that you want to connect to. The other thing that I will mention is what we offer right now to anyone in the world. So the services that we offer, as I mentioned, are provided by ELIXIR nodes. So you can go on the ELIXIR website and you can see a full list of all of the services. And our role in the ELIXIR Hub is to help the coordination of that. But the services are accessed directly, usually online, by going to the resource in question. A lot of our partners have developed web portals as well. Now, that could be, for example, a place to find relevant software or a place to find relevant training courses, like our training registry called TESS. So, because there's a lot of resources available in the life sciences, we have many web portals and registries that allow you to find the resource that you're needing to use and access. And our partners also develop a lot of guidelines that could be guidelines about making data fair, or it could be guidelines about making software sustainable. So these are resources that you can use that will help as you can continue your activities. We've also got schemes and mechanisms that help our national communities do outreach with industry, if that's a priority for you. So helping to do events or do some strategic thinking about how you might want to approach collaboration with industry in your country. And one of the big mechanisms that we have to enable collaboration is by connecting experts across countries through commission service projects and through EU projects as well. So my colleagues Peter and Claire will tell you a bit more about how the platforms and how the communities work, because they are really important mechanisms of bringing together experts. So you've seen now the types of services that we offer, which are available for everyone. So Romanian bioinformaticians can already be accessing all of the services that ELIXIR partners provide. And what you'll see now is a very short introduction to how we work in practice. Because as I mentioned, we've got over 1,000 experts in the ELIXIR network across our ELIXIR nodes. So we need to develop mechanisms that allow us to connect those experts together so that they can work on projects or develop a vision for what needs to happen. And so Peter will talk to you about how we do that via platforms, and Claire will talk to you about how we do that through communities, which are more domain specific and which are open for you to engage and connect to. We also have focus groups, and these are more ad hoc, shorter term groupings of experts in a particular area, like, say, machine learning or cancer data, for example. So there's opportunities to connect to those focus groups as well. And then we enable the collaboration by funding projects called commission services in a particular area or theme. So say if we want to connect databases in the area of human genomics, we can fund partners to work on small scale projects that help them connect those resources together. And of course, we also have training coordinators and technical coordinators. So we aim to have an expert in both of those areas in each of our ELIXIR nodes. And so you're welcome to connect to those activities to find out about how nodes are developed, constructed, and we can give you support and advice about that, and including when Mihai and I visit you in April in the Romanian Bioinformatics Conference, where we can talk a bit more about node development opportunities there as well. The other thing that we use is a way of connecting our partners together to help improve their services or connect and integrate their services are EU projects. And this is just a snapshot of some of the current and new projects that are starting, but we're probably involved in about 15 ongoing projects at the moment, sometimes as coordinator, but sometimes as a project partner. And so not every ELIXIR node will take part in every project that ELIXIR is involved in. It depends on the theme, it depends on the focus, it depends on the size of the project. But in ELIXIR Steers, this is a project that is really about trying to help take ELIXIR to the next level of being a mature research infrastructure. And it has a focus on software development and node development as well. So some of those activities I mentioned previously that will be of use to Romania. And so there we'll be working with the Romanian bioinformatics community, who will have a small number of person months to connect to activities. That project has just started recently, as has the EOSC Entrust project, which is focused on trusted research environments and where we collaborate with other research infrastructures and other national initiatives as well. And then, of course, there's a Buy COVID project, which has a particular focus on infectious diseases. So trying to connect each country's data generation activities around pathogens and infectious diseases, and making sure it's aligned with the European COVID-19 data platform and portal. So we have many ongoing projects, many new projects that we're always submitting, in which we can engage Romania in fully as and when you make the next step to becoming a member. One of the other things I'll flag here is some of the public events that we have, which everyone is welcome to apply to. So a proposal could be submitted, for example, to join us in our next biohackathon. I see a nice photo of Mihai here. So this is a flagship event that we organize each year in the autumn, and it's a great opportunity for developers and hands-on hacking projects in areas of bioinformatics. So I would encourage you for this year and in future years to look out for the calls for proposals, and the current deadline is the 8th of April. And I think that's all I would like to say, just to introduce you to ELIXIR. But I would remind you that there are lots of different opportunities and mechanisms to connect and follow our developments. You can follow us on social media. When it comes to discussions around membership, I'm in regular contact with representatives of the emerging node in Romania and the ministry, and I'm happy to talk about those afterwards as well. And of course, as I've mentioned, we often have events and speak at local events as well. And I look forward to visiting Romania in April, where Mihai and I will be talking to you in person if you're at the Romanian Bioinformatics Conference. So I think with that, I'm happy to end.
kindly said, I'm Peter Maccallum. I'm the Chief Technical Officer at the ELIXIR Hub. So we have the role across ELIXIR of coordinating the activities. But as Andy has said, most of the services, most of the delivery of ELIXIR is actually done within the ELIXIR node. So our role within the hub is to coordinate those activities across Europe, but not to provide the services ourselves. Now, I run a team at the hub of technical experts. You've already met Michael, who works with us on the training platform and the tools platform. And later you'll meet Clare, who looks after the ELIXIR communities and the interoperability platform. So we'll talk about how this works as I run you through the ELIXIR platform. So the thing I'm going to tell you about is the way we look at technology development and the individual services and how we fit all of those together. So I'll take you into this. So Andy has already showed you a little bit of the structure of ELIXIR, the types of activity that we do. One of the things that we do is to look at technology development, look at service delivery, and we group this into 5 clusters, and we call those clusters the ELIXIR platforms. So we have a compute platform, a data platform, a tools platform, an interoperability platform, and a training platform. And as I go through and introduce each of these, I'll explain what they mean and explain a little bit about what we mean by the term platform as well. To make it a little more concrete, what we do with the platform mechanism is we group together 2 sets of resource, if you like. So one resource are the individual ELIXIR services. There are currently around about 400 ELIXIR services across the whole network. And they don't all fall neatly into one of these buckets, but they all have aspects of these different technologies. So we have, for example, cloud services provided by some of our national providers. We have many bioinformatics tools provided by individual research groups. And of course, at the heart of many of the things that you do in your day-to-day bioinformatics, we have the data resources, large scale, small scale, specialist and generalist. We have data resources that need to be provided. And of course, none of this would happen without the experts who provide the individual services and who provide the enabling technologies around these services. So all of this together makes up what we refer to as a platform. So it provides us with technical expertise and a technical expert group drawn from among the ELIXIR node members around these technology classes. And we then invest back in through these clusters as well. So one of the key things we do with the platforms is we use them as a mechanism to distribute ELIXIR funding to optimize and link between the different activities. So, and you can see here some of the things that we engaged in the 2019 to 2023 ELIXIR program, and how those were broadly clustered into the platform categories. Now I'll dig into these in a little bit more detail, and then we'll look ahead to what we're going to be doing for the next 5-year program as well. But we don't just use the platforms as an internal structure. We also leverage the services and leverage the expertise to support EU projects. So the individual ELIXIR services and the experts in the platform also are the mechanism by which we participate in EU projects. So Andy has picked out by COVID. We worked in recent EU funding rounds on projects like ELIXIR Converge, EOSC Life, and FAIR Plus, where we're able to provide expertise and services. But then we also get a very valuable feedback. So those EU projects tend to be quite large and well-funded and can be used to develop novel ideas and novel services. So the other thing we do through the EU projects is we develop new services, which we then wrap back into the ELIXIR system. And several of the examples here. So for example, the ELIXIR Converge produced the RDM kit, EOSC Life produced the Workflow Hub, FAIR Plus produced the FAIR Cookbook, and by COVID has produced the pathogen portal network that we're using across Europe now. And these have come back into the ELIXIR platforms to become services that we can then maintain and offer going forwards. To look at the platforms themselves in a little more detail, we have the compute platform. So that was established to look at cloud service provision, compute problems, storage problems, and the access to those services across the life science research community. And in the previous program, we worked, for example, on a shared authentication authorization infrastructure. We worked on the problems of hybrid cloud, linking between different islands of cloud capability. We looked at containerization, and we looked at solidifying the service that we provide to have a single login framework across all of the ELIXIR services and indeed beyond as well. I'm going to show you a little bit about how we structure the platforms themselves. I'm not going to do this for each platform in the interest of time. But for each platform, we form a managing committee of experts that we draw from the nodes. And here, in the example of the compute platform, we have 3 members of the executive committee that we've drawn from ELIXIR Czech, Jana Brankova, from ELIXIR Finland, Juha Törnroos, and from ELIXIR Germany, Harald Wagener. They represent 3 of the nodes, but they represent the technology platform on behalf of the whole of ELIXIR. And we ourselves at the hub then also provide some expertise. So in the case of the compute platform, that's our program manager, Jonathan Tedds, and Gavin Farrell, our technical officer. But there's a wider membership of the platform as well, from among the nodes, from the participants in the projects that we funded, and from the individual service providers as well. And as new nodes join, of course, we widen the membership of each of these platforms. To look at alphabetically the next platform, we have the ELIXIR data platform, and many of the things that are core to what we do at ELIXIR are represented and looked after through the data platform. We look at issues around database provision. We look at community data management networks. We look at data integration problems, of course. We look at scalable curation. So for those of you who are building data sets, looking at tools that we can give you to enable you to automatically read the literature, for example. And we also run 2 different quality programs, if you like. One is the ELIXIR Core Data Resources, where we look across all of our databases, more than 100 at the moment, and identify those which are foundational to European and international research. And so the ELIXIR Core Data Resources, many of you are already users of, represent things like the European Nucleotide Archive, without which most of the rest of our work wouldn't be possible. And we also pick out a subset of those and some other resources that are particularly useful to the community, the deposition databases, which are places that you can put your own data and that we recommend to people for particular data types. And we're trying to build a network which will provide enough coverage of all the needs of European bioinformaticians there. We also have an interoperability platform. So with many, many data resources, many different tools, one of the issues we have is how to connect between them and how to interoperate between them. And we have a whole activity dedicated just to the questions of interoperability. This looks at file formats, it looks at metadata, vocabularies, and also looks at many of the registries that we use to link things together and make things findable. This has been the focus for ELIXIR's contribution to the development of FAIR services and the FAIR principles in data, something that ELIXIR has been involved in from the start of that terminology. In the recent program, we looked, for example, at all of the FAIRification services that we provide and tried to bring them into a framework. So everything from data management planning right through to the deposition of data. And we've also tried to connect this up through a knowledge hub, which gives access to all of these resources. We again have a kind of quality framework for interoperability resources, and we currently have 21 recommended interoperability resources, which are services that are underpinning the rest of our ELIXIR activities. 2 more platforms. So we have the tools platform, which is the place that we put our focus on bioinformatics software. So we look at technologies around software development and deployment, containerization, for example. We also run a registry, so the bio.tools registry, so that all of the informatics tools that you need in your work can be found and classified. And we've got a work stream around software best practices in that activity as well. And then alphabetically, finally, we have a training platform. So this is two separate things. There's a network of people, of course, and we have a training coordinator in each individual ELIXIR node. But we also have some shared technology and shared best practices information that we develop so that bioinformatics trainers across Europe can share their materials, can share information about their events, can gather information about events that have happened in the past, and can work on capacity building and train-the-trainer activities. So we have technologies to support training as well as the training network itself through the platform. Now, looking slightly ahead into 2024 to 2028, we have a new program. Now, one complaint you could make about developing 5 separate platforms is that we've naturally created some silos. In the new program, we're looking at some of the objectives we want to achieve. So in particular, we want to extend our expertise in research data management and knowledge sharing and share that with the community. We've done a lot of work on workflows, reproducible analytics, and deployable infrastructure. And we've got a lot of experience in federated service delivery. And the way this works in the new program is we've taken those activities and spread them across the platform. So the platforms collectively are working on these driving problems. So research data management and knowledge sharing is one of the focuses of the data platform, the interoperability platform, the training platform, over the next 5 years. And you can see some of the activities that we've directly funded there. And for reproducible analytics and infrastructure, this requires our tools platform, our workflow activities, and our compute platform all to fit together as well. So again, we've got directed funding to specific projects to make sure that those platforms are working together well. And finally, across all of the platforms, they all deliver services and they all have kind of fundamental components that we need to provide. So how this fits together in a European context, how these can underpin larger projects, and what the best practices are around providing a software tool, providing a database, providing a compute service, are things that we work together across all of the platforms to build a toolkit for federated service delivery. And that's my final slide. I'll pause there, see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Peter. So you have seen these 5 platforms, data interoperability, compute, tools, and training. And as Peter mentioned, I am a science officer for the tools and training platforms. And up next, we have Clare Garrard, also science officer for the interoperability and platform, and also for the communities. We do have a question in chat from Bogdan Milowca, and the follow-up. And these are for Andy, so I think maybe we can take them now.
Sure.
So the question to Andy is, I understand ELIXIR has developed strong relationships with other European organizations such as BBMRI and MIRRI. So how do these translate at a national level? And then the follow-up is, can we get involved in the... Oh, sorry, that's a question for Peter, actually. So please, Andy.
Sure, I'll take the first one, Mihai. So thanks for the question, Bogdan. It's a really good one. So just to give everyone the context, there's a group of around 12 European research infrastructures that cover other areas of the life sciences. So ELIXIR is for bioinformatics, BBMRI is for biobanking, MIRI is for microbial resources. And so we work very closely together with each other. There are other ones for clinical trials or for medical and biological imaging facilities called Eurobioimaging. So we work together quite a lot at the European level, and indeed a lot of the EU projects that we're involved in. So the BioCovid project that you mentioned, or the genomics data infrastructure, or the European Open Science Cloud projects, we will frequently collaborate with each other on those projects. And in the same way that with ELIXIR, the services are provided by national nodes, it's also the case that for the other life science infrastructures, their services are provided by national nodes as well. And so you see lots of nice positive collaborations that happen nationally. To give an example, in the Netherlands, for example, the ELIXIR node in the Netherlands is actually an entity that brings together the BBMRI node, so the biobanking expertise, and also the expertise for translational medicine. So the infrastructure at a local level is really tightly integrated between ELIXIR and those other research infrastructures. And that's really important because obviously ELIXIR is an infrastructure that helps to connect because our focus is data and all other infrastructures generate data. So there's always opportunities to collaborate and to connect between them. And I think that's another thing for you to think of. And I guess this is why you asked the question, Bogdan, is what are the other research infrastructures in Romania that are a priority for you? And how can ELIXIR, through the services that you'll be providing, whether it's data management support, whether it's training, whether it's data analysis, how can you help to make sure that the support that you provide through ELIXIR Romania node in future also has benefits to the other research infrastructures in the life sciences that are important to Romania as well? And it's a topic we can talk about in future as well, because there's lots of different components of it. But hopefully that's a very short answer to that question.
Thank you, Andy. I see two more questions have come up, but I'm wondering now, in the interest of time, if we could talk about communities and then save these and other questions that will probably come up afterwards. So with that, I welcome Clare to introduce the many communities in ELIXIR to us.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, indeed, we do have very many ELIXIR communities. So in fact, this outer circle over here is well, it shows 17, but we have another one now. There are 18 ELIXIR communities now. And the idea of the ELIXIR communities is that they connect the infrastructure. So the part that Peter's just talked about, all these technological platforms that provide various resources and services, the communities aim to provide a link directly to the domain expertise so that these technological services aren't developed in isolation, but rather that they actually serve user needs. So the ELIXIR communities are formed around domain experts within ELIXIR. So that's our nodes and indeed our observers. You are able to join the communities. We also have non-ELIXIR partners. So this is people who are in organizations that aren't within ELIXIR, but there is a valuable partnership there. So therefore, they are also part of ELIXIR communities. The ELIXIR communities also provide a mechanism for long-term collaborations with other S3s and large-scale initiatives. So, for example, we have many interactions with the human data communities here, with the Global Alliance for Genomic Health. And biodiversity, for example, links up to another research infrastructure, LifeWatch ERIC, and others, but those are just a couple of examples. The ELIXIR communities drive service developments in the platforms. So this is that linking effect, making sure that the platforms provide usable services. And they also provide a framework to develop and maintain community standards. So one of the very well-known examples is the plant science community developed the MIAPI standards. So these are the minimum information about plant phenotyping experiments. And that's quite well known and used. And it started out as a community standard. And there are numerous examples of these. And it's one of the activities that they all tend to do. The ELIXIR communities all function according to a defined process. So this is all kind of gathered together in the ELIXIR communities handbook. And you can find this online. The DOI is here. or you can type in 2024 ELIXIR Communities Handbook into F1000, and it basically tells you what a community is, who can join, what the benefits are, and how communities are structured. So the communities follow a defined maturity journey. They start off with a proposal, the group comes together and they think about what they'd like to do. Then they go through a few governance stages. They get invited by our governing body, the heads of nodes, to write a white paper. This white paper is their roadmap, the goals that they aim to achieve as a community, and the scientific problems that they will hopefully solve. Then once the head of nodes agree, there's an official establishment of the community, and then they start getting these implementation studies or commission services. These are the projects that ELIXIR awards. And you can see we've got some very new communities, so microbiome. We've also got a cancer community, which is so new that it's not even on the diagram yet. And then we've got communities that have been around for 6 to 8 years. These were the very first ELIXIR communities, and they actually started out as use cases, which were an example of, will it work to drive service development through these groups? And as you can see, it worked quite well. So now we have 18 of them. We also have communities that change focus, for example. So there's marine metagenomics, grayed out at the top. This was one of the first communities. They've been around long enough that their focus has changed. And so they decided they would start a new community, and now they focus on microbiome work. In terms of community structure, so we have 3 co-leads who are drawn from the ELIXIR nodes. The co-leads cannot be external to the nodes. This is one of the kind of governance requirements. And then we have ELIXIR Hub support. So this takes 3 main forms. Firstly, there is the community liaison. So this is the day-to-day hub contact. Then there is the governance support. So things like getting new co-leads in, how do various kind of background processes of the communities work. And thirdly, then if communities want to apply for funding, for example, in EU projects, then we can also help and support them with that. The community members, I mentioned this earlier, are drawn from within ELIXIR, and the community partners are external to ELIXIR. Communities offer a number of benefits. So there are the very concrete things like having face-to-face meetings. This allows everyone to get together and network. These are also run hybrid since the pandemic, and it does allow for a wider range of people to attend. The white papers that get written, these are review type papers, and they are published and citable. We offer writing support for this. There's the access to the commission service funding. We offer a number of opportunities for networking and interaction and visibility. So things like the ELIXIR All Hands meeting, the biohackathon, which you saw the slide of earlier, and the opportunity to be a co-lead. And the co-leads have highlighted, we had a survey last year, they've highlighted that the visibility has also helped them with things like promotion prospects. So it does have tangible benefits that carry forward elsewhere. We also assist with things like communication, outreach, and branding. So we have the ELIXIR website, each community is listed there, and their activities, their co-leads, their leadership. We offer a mailing list for each community to make sure they can interact and keep in touch appropriately. And we build their online presence, and we can do webinars like this for the communities to disseminate their activities. There is also technical and scientific support, so the funding opportunities, like I mentioned, review from the Scientific Advisory Board and the heads of nodes, career development opportunities, as well as impact assessment. And then, of course, there are the very day-to-day administrative and operational support functions, and we offer assistance with this so that the community can focus on their scientific work. So in terms of community impact, there are numerous ways that a community could have impact. This includes things like research efficiency, scientific legacy, skills development. There are numerous other ones. These are some of the ones that crop up again and again in the ELIXIR communities. I'll give a couple of examples of these now. So in terms of community standards, I mentioned earlier these MIAPI standards. We also have within the human data communities, so there are three now, historically three, now four: federated human data, human copy number variation, and rare disease. They've worked with GA4GH and developed these beacon standards, which allow for people to access human data, sensitive human data, without exposing things, without violating any privacy rules. And that's really useful for things like sharing clinical data and genomic data. And it's being used in, for example, the European Genomic Data Infrastructure Project. Then we have examples like centralizing and integrating data. So our 3D Bioinfo community have their PDB knowledge base, and this brings together a lot of information that would otherwise be fragmented around the structural bioinformatics side of things. Almost all of the communities offer some form of training, or one of their goals is to offer some form of training. So for example, single-cell omics. This is a very new and rapidly evolving area of technology. So it's not only the single-cell omics, but there's also the spatial transcriptomics, which has evolved as quite an area that's been underserved. And so they surveyed a wide range of people and ended up developing a spatial transcriptomics course in response to this. Then we have global efforts. So the Galaxy community links into numerous other Galaxy efforts around the world. There's Galaxy in Africa, India, apparently Canada has just recently set that up as well. So they link into all of these things, and Galaxy is quite a well-networked community as well. They link to a lot of European projects. And then, of course, we have the networking and visibility. So the co-leads might have promotion prospects because of their visibility. If you're a new researcher, you also build up a community of people in your area, and that helps to offer you new professional opportunities. So that's a bit of a summary of the ELIXIR communities. If you want to join one, you can explore the ELIXIR communities on this webpage. And then you can, if you find one that you really like, you can navigate to the community webpage and click on the Join Community button. That means that you'll start receiving email updates, you can join the regular calls, and you can get engaged in the community activities. So that's all on communities. Thanks very much, and back to you, Maccallum.
Thank you, Claire. So I hope you have all seen how diverse these communities can be and how many benefits they bring. This is a wonderful opportunity to engage deeper within ELIXIR, but also with other scientists around Europe and beyond. And with that, I would also like to perhaps take one of the previous questions that we've had in the chat. And I'm now looking at the one probably aimed to Peter, because it's about platforms. So the question is, can we get involved in the platforms now, even if Romania is an observer?
Yes, and the answer for the platforms is very similar to the to the answer Claire gave for the communities as well. So it is possible for people external to ELIXIR to participate in the activities and the meetings of the platform. So you can ask to join. You don't have an automatic right to join, but for an observer state with the right skills or interests, you can expect that we would listen favorably to that. The same as we do with the ELIXIR communities, and we do in fact in the platforms have named individuals even in the work plans who are providing in-kind contributions, for example, from our partners in Australia, who are not eligible for funding, but who participate in the work plan activities. So you would be very welcome in that context. You're excluded from some types of ELIXIR funding, and you wouldn't be eligible for any of the leadership positions if they came up. But for the other activities, you'd be very welcome. When it comes to the funding, it takes us a while to develop and conceive the project. So participating earlier on would increase your chances of funded participation later on as well. So I wouldn't discourage you at all from joining the platforms if you were interested. Likewise, those of you who are providing services, which might later become ELIXIR services, you might benefit from reaching out to the relevant platform. So if you're running a database, if you have a software tool, for example, getting connected with that community now. Many of the registries we use are not restricted to ELIXIR tools. Some are, Core Data Resources is, but bio.tools, for example, we would encourage you to have good up-to-date metadata on your own software in bio.tools, regardless of whether you're an ELIXIR member.
Thank you, Peter. So with that, I think we'll try to save the remaining question at the end. And now I would like to welcome Beatrice Paduroiu. So she is joining from the Romanian Ministry of Research, and specifically from the Department of International Relations. And so welcome, and you're also welcome to share your screen and present.
Thank you very much for your invitation. My name is Beatrice Paduroiu. I'm a Counsellor for European Affairs at the Ministry for Research and Innovation. We have a question regarding the collaboration between governmental entity and a private company to meet the demands for services. I think yes, it could be possible to join as a private company to the national node network, and to have a collaboration agreement with the node. I'm not quite sure that the private company will be eligible for financial support through the national instruments, or anyway, the company will be subject to state rules, aid rules. But I think the company can join the national node network.
Thank you, Beatrice. And I saw for a second there, Andy had a raised hand, probably wanting to chip in as well.
Sure. So I can maybe just add to that response as well from Beatrice. So just a few things on the composition of a node as you're thinking about this in Romania. So there's only one node per country. However, the node will usually connect multiple institutions, typically universities, sometimes government agencies, publicly funded research institutes. But for the reasons mentioned, industry can't be a member of the node because we receive taxpayers' funding and we spend that on projects in each country. So we cannot fund industry, okay? So when you're thinking through your node composition, it will really be about bringing together the bioinformatics community that's publicly funded, universities, research institutes. However, we have other mechanisms that can allow you to build contacts and collaborations with industry. So for example, we have a staff exchange scheme. So if you wanted to have somebody from a node spend time working in a company, we can pay for that. We can also provide some financial support if your proposal is successful, to allow you to do an industry engagement day where you organize a networking brokering day, where you showcase some of the activities of the Romanian node and try to build links with local companies and contacts as well. So there's lots of channels that can be used to support your links with industry. It's just that there cannot be an institute that is involved in your node directly as a member. hopefully that's clarified.
I will start with a brief introduction, especially for the Romanian community. One of the main objectives of the National Strategy for Research and Innovation for 2021-2027 is to increase the participation of Romanian entities in European and international programs and projects, including participation of Romania to international organizations. Speaking from the government side, I have to mention that definitely the decision to participation as a state in an international organization is a political one. The process involves the opinion of the government, the approval of the parliament by law, and the promulgation of the law by the president of the Romania. The initiative may come top-down when it is a strategic one, but in the most cases, and in the cases of ELIXIR, the process initiation takes a bottom-up approach and comes from the research community. To take into consideration such initiative, first of all, there must be a strong interest from the research community to participate to the activities of the respective international organization. The necessary national research facilities or infrastructure must be in operation or in preparation. The human resources must exist to create critical mass and to assure the activities at national and international level addressed to the international organization. And last but not least, we must have the necessary financial resources to support participation in the respective international organizations and to create the proper instrument to support their participation. In this way, the bioinformatics community, through the Romanian Bioinformatics Society, sent in 2021 a request to the Ministry of Research asking its support for the integration of a national node into ELIXIR network. In 2022, was established the Romanian Bioinformatics Cluster as a legal entity formed by 17 leading Romanian universities and biomedical research institutes in order to assure a critical mass and to provide a framework for organizing of bioinformatics community in Romania. The cluster declares its potential to coordinate bioinformatics in Romania and to fulfill the responsibilities of an ELIXIR node. Another representative entity is the Genomic Research and Development Institute, which was established with the aim of developing a national human genomics infrastructure. I have to say that the Romanian government is actively involved in promoting participation in European human genomics initiatives. Romania is a part of the 1 Million Genomes initiative and the Genomic EDIC, European Digital Infrastructure Consortium. Additionally, the Genomic Institute has joined the Genomic Data Infrastructure Project together with the Authority for Digitalization of Romania. In this context, the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Digitalization received a formal request from the research community represented by the Romanian Bioinformatics Cluster to evaluate the opportunity of participation of Romania to ELIXIR. The Ministry evaluated and accepted their request and sent the application to ELIXIR board for an observer status in the first phase. In the end of the last year, and the request was accepted and approved by the ELIXIR board, and Romania has become an observer to ELIXIR for 2 years, beginning with this year, 2025. This is the general context in which Romania became an observer to ELIXIR. Now I want to inform you about the stage where we are in the process regarding the accession of Romania as a full member to ELIXIR in terms of international law. The approval of the accession of a state to an international organization means the acceptance of the founding treaty. In case of ELIXIR, the acceptance by the Romania of the ELIXIR Consortium Agreement. And as probably you know from the other two countries which are in the process of accession to ELIXIR, this process is quite complex. We started the national procedure for accession as a full member in the beginning of this year by initiating a memorandum for the approval in principle of the accession steps and the initiation of the draw law for accession. Until now, the memorandum was endorsed by the two advisory ministries, the Ministry of External Affairs and the Ministry of Finance. I have to say that we have some comments about prioritization and financing from the Ministry of Finance. And in this moment, we are in exchange of letters on this subject. But we appreciate that in a short time, I hope until the end of this month, the memorandum will be on the agenda of the government meeting. After the approval by the Prime Minister, the memorandum shall be signed by the President, and this is the procedure in case international organization to which the state is a member. Having the memorandum signed, we can send a formal request letter for accession as a member to ELIXIR. The letter will be signed by our minister, the Minister for Research, Innovation and Digitalization, and we can initiate the draw law for accession. I would mention that in accordance with the national law, a state treaty may enter into force only after the agreement's instrument of acceptance, namely the law for the acceptance of Romania of the ECA, is approved by the Parliament, signed by the President and transmitted to the international organization. But I will not discuss now when and how the ECA will come into effect. This shall be the subject of a separate discussion later with the representative of ELIXIR. I just wanted to point out that at the national level, the procedure for accession is ongoing. And finally, very short, I would like to speak about financial commitments of Romania. In the current quality, as an observer, Romania has a financial obligation for the first 2 years, meaning this year and next year. Beginning with 2026, after accessing of Romania as a full member, the financial contribution, meaning the membership fee, that will be about 120,000 euro, shall be assured by the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Digitalization. Regarding the in-kind contribution, this will be assured by the national node based on the agreement signed by ELIXIR Hub. Also, in support in the in-kind activities, the Ministry of Research and Innovation has created specific instruments. For instance, we launched a call for supporting participation of Romanian entities to ESFI projects and ERICS, European Research Infrastructure Consortium. The call is financed by structural funds managed by our ministry. And we also plan to launch a call under the National Plan for Research, Development and Innovation, also to support Romanian entities to participate in ESFRI projects. I've pointed out this information because ELIXIR is a landmark project on ESFRI roadmap. Consequently, the Romanian entities participating in the national node can apply through coordinator of the node to these calls. I will stop now, but if you need more information about these instruments, we can get in touch on email. I refer to Romanian entities participating in the node. And I'm not the person in charge with this call, but I can give you some guidance information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, for presenting us with the state of affairs, so to say, and where we are in the process and what kind of challenges are coming up. But as I understand, the things are, shall I put this? How shall I put this? On track. So thank you for that. There was a question, but I feel that was already partly answered. Well, at least on an administrative aspects from Larissa. What are the anticipated challenges in integrating Romania into the ELIXIR network, and how can these be addressed? Well, we've heard yet again the administrative side of integration, but I would like to redirect this question to Clare or Peter or Andy in terms of practical aspects. So please.
Should I go first, offer some thoughts first? Yeah. So if we look at the experience of other ELIXIR nodes that have connected to ELIXIR recently, the ones that get the most value are the ones that have the capacity to connect to the right initiatives and activities in ELIXIR. And it was great to hear Beatrice mention that there is a mechanism that the community can apply to for funding to help them connect to S3 research infrastructures. So I think that's a really great mechanism that should hopefully provide the resource and capacity for the individuals that will be involved in leadership roles in ELIXIR Romanian node to be able to connect to the activities, because you saw from Peter and Claire's really helpful presentations, ELIXIR is covering a large number of technology areas and scientific communities. Now, clearly the expectation is not that Romania has an individual involved in every single activity. I don't think that should be a target, but it's obvious that there's areas where you're particularly interested in, like sensitive human data, training, data management. There could be some in plant sciences. So I would suggest thinking through which areas of ELIXIR's activities resonate most nationally. That could include which other research infrastructures in the life science are considered important for Romania, and then try to build the collaborations that way. I think having good internal collaboration between partners really helps as well, because you might have one individual from one institute taking part in a particular ELIXIR community, and you might have a different individual from another Romanian institute taking part in a different ELIXIR platform, for example. So having mechanisms, whether that's through mailing lists or annual meetings, just having a good governance structure in place to help operate the node is really important as well. So that's a few reflections from me.
Thank you, Andy. So I'm not sure if Clare or Peter would want to add anything to that.
I would make the observation that everybody coming to the whole of ELIXIR for the first time finds it very complicated. So the staff in particular who will form the ELIXIR node itself will have to learn the mechanisms, the governance, and the series of events. In particular, in order to be able to communicate those back to their national community. That process just takes time, and the observership process allows you to kind of witness and learn about that before you participate. Ultimately, though, you get a benefit from doing this that is seen at a national level. So some of our larger nodes have got an internal complicated ELIXIR node structure, which mirrors many of the aspects of ELIXIR. They have communities, they have technology platforms, they have internal activities. And I would say from the start, the better you can align your internal bioinformatics network with the functioning of your ELIXIR node, the more benefit you will get both from your interactions with the rest of ELIXIR, but also, you know, as a side benefit internally as a focus for your own bioinformatics institute. So we have good examples there. In Germany, DENBI is a bioinformatics network that would potentially even exist without the ELIXIR node structure. AFB in France and indeed ELIXIR UK itself, which is a very large internal national network now, but still has the core ELIXIR node as a focal entity. So it's worth bearing that in mind. It seems complicated, but eventually all the parts start to make sense.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
Claire?
I'd just like to add on that if you are interested in some of the communities and you're not entirely sure what they do or which ones, feel free to browse the webpage, reach out, ask questions, and do get involved. We are happy to have people attending the face-to-face meetings, and it's a really nice way to meet other people, network with them, get to know what they're doing. So.
Thank you, Claire. And while I give the word to Bogdan, because I see a raised hand, I'm also sharing a poster of an upcoming event that Andy both mentioned in the presentation and in chat, where you can learn more about ELIXIR. And so Andy and I will be there to hopefully answer at least a part of your question. But Bogdan, please.
Hi. Answering maybe Larissa's question, I think we don't talk anymore about challenges. There were challenges up to this moment, and there was a long path up to Romania becoming an observer. From now on, it's the normal path. So it's not smooth, but it's a path that any node followed at one point. And yes, of course, there are ups and downs. I think one of the main steps that we can do now, while we are preparing to become a member, is to integrate communities and learn more about what's our role within the wider European network and how we can benefit from this network. And I can witness firsthand that the benefits can be great, can be amazing. And maybe one of the main benefits is that you get to meet really lovely people. So again, it's maybe this was a longer answer point that I intended to make, but so we are on a great path now. I see that the ministry is working with the community to with the same goal. We'll get there, hopefully soon.
Thank you for the kind and positive, encouraging words, Bogdan. Thank you. So I've also put up the contact on the slide here on the screen, but as Claire mentioned, there are also specific contacts on the website, so feel free to browse the ELIXIR website for the communities and the platforms and the focus groups, and please do get in touch. And I see, I'm not sure if we have time to tackle one more question. Maybe with a brief, so there's a question in chat if there are any funding opportunities or support mechanisms available for Romanian researchers interested in engaging in ELIXIR communities. Then I believe that the communities with a capital C, but I think Beatrice has briefly mentioned this before, but Andy, I see you want to.
Yeah, I guess a quick answer, and I'm happy to talk more in April. So ELIXIR itself has many components, okay? And so there are usually opportunities to enable things depending on what needs to happen. So, but there are also some rules. So for example, we cannot fund from the budget that we manage on behalf of our member states. We cannot fund an institute unless it's from an ELIXIR member state. So for example, those commission service projects that I mentioned, which is really the main mechanism that we have to implement projects in ELIXIR, we couldn't at this moment fund Romanian researchers on those projects that relate to ELIXIR communities. You could be non-fund and unfunded partner, join meetings, join the mailing lists, but we can't fund you at the moment from the central hub budget. There are, as Beatrice mentioned, there is a scheme in Romania that will be established in future that could provide national funding to partners to connect to that. There are sometimes other schemes at the European level that you could explore and that I could give you advice on as well. It's really great that you've looked innovatively at this and got Norwegian funding as well. And I think we should recognize the role of Norwegian partners in helping to give their expertise to a lot of the human data development activities that have been happening in Romania as well. So that's a very quick answer to that. But because there are so many different components to it, it's probably something that needs to be discussed in a bit more detail as well. There are other opportunities like EU structural funds, so and many other mechanisms that we have when Romania becomes a member.
Thank you, Andy. So I think that is a good way to underline the needs to be in touch. So you see our contacts here, and also on the last slide on how to sort of keep in touch with the events happening in ELIXIR. And I think with that we've also answered the whole question. So thank you all for the being engaged and learning more about ELIXIR. So and also to our speakers giving such a condensed overview of this wonderful infrastructure. So thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.